For all its material advantages, the sedentary life has left us edgy, unfulfilled. Even after 400 generations in villages and cities, we haven't forgotten. The open road still softly calls, like a nearly forgotten song of childhood. We invest far-off places with a certain romance. The appeal, I suspect, has been meticulously crafted by natural selection as an essential element in our survival. Long summers, mild winters, rich harvests, plentiful game. None of them lasts forever. Your own life, or your band's, or even your species might be owed to a restless few, drawn by a craving they can hardly articulate or understand, to undiscovered lands and new worlds. Herman Melville in Moby Dick spoke for wanderers in all epochs and meridians. He said, "I am tormented with an everlasting itch for things remote. I love to sail forbidden seas." Maybe it's a little early. Maybe the time is not quite yet. But those other worlds, promising untold opportunities, beckon. Silently, they orbit the sun, waiting.
Like waiting for us to start. Right then. Oh my God. Here we go. Okay, yeah. I knew it. Fucking knew it. There it is. Green screen. Fail. Try now. Worse.
I'll stay silent so we can cut this bit off at the start.
Worse.
And then redo it again.
Better. Right. Question. Can you hear Miz?
Well, I'm the only one there, so
okay.
See if I can
just
hear
you and me.
myself.
Can you hear yourself?
Just you and me. Let's have a look. I'd have to unmute it to hear if I can hear myself.
You can hear yourself.
Yes, I can hear myself. I don't know if it's
Are
loud, quiet.
Are you in sync though? That's the question. Next big question.
I'm not sure I'm qualified to answer that.
In sync. Nice. One of us was asleep. I love it. The voted on yourself. The truth speaks truth. Yes, I was asleep. I was fucking asleep. This is how bad. This is how bad this is. I'm doing the podcast again. Being completely unprepared, unplanned. I was hoping for like a good, half an hour of preparation and getting myself sorted, but no. 5 minutes. 5 minutes panic. crazy panic. So, you good?
Good evening, everybody.
You're good evening
To the Asylum
to the two of us. To the two of us. I figured
to
this,
us.
just you and me chatting, talking about the lack of news that there is this week. It's insane because, like, I think last week we had the week off, so because it was like obviously school half terms, and then I come back, and I go away for a week, and just like carnage just descended upon the Star Citizen universe. It was like everybody was freaking out because I'm pretty sure because we did the podcast and they had they announced the Hornet. I don't think they'd done the Mark, the retirement of the Mark 1. And it was like crazy.
I think that happened afterwards. I think wasn't that a last week thing? I feel like that was a last week thing.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those.
We wasn't doing it. Yeah,
it's like the news. It's like all things like news with this game, like and news and just generally. It's like it always seems to just. It feels like old news already. Do you know what I mean? It's like we've kind of people have dealt with that situation, that news, digested it, and then they've moved on from it. It's like almost it's so quick. And so we talked about it the other day, didn't we? Like in terms of because I'll touch on it because for some people they made it into like a really really big thing, but yeah, I think we were a bit more practical about it, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean it's like any kind of it feels like it's like any kind of dramatic news is that it's talked about, and then it's like people say even in real life it's like it's just tomorrow's chip paper, it's in the headlines today, and then tomorrow and I don't know if it's still like that, whether Spectrum's still going mad, but I think overall, it was a bit of a flash in the pan. But yeah, I think we were definitely more chilled, but then there were definitely reasons for that, considering it wasn't unexpected.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. It wasn't. It was. If you look at, I think what was it? I think there was an old. I mean, this is how far back we go because you go back even further than I did. But there was the ATV where they had talked about this, and I know Space Tomato, you sent me through the link. He actually
found the clip.
I'm
not very good at looking through 5-10 years.
Holy shit to go
clips.
through. Yeah, I mean
I do remember. I do remember playing and I think streaming at the time that news came out because. I remember having conversations with Toby saying that my Aurora would they be doing it with all the ships, like especially the early ships that were coming out? So are they going to become classics? Would you have like a classic Aurora and the classic? Because there was I think that debate when the Freelancer changed as well. So because the Freelancer was a completely different shape compared to what we've got now.
Yeah.
And it was like, are they going to just change it or are they going to keep one a classic? And so obviously we've had a few where they've just scrapped it and gone with a complete redesign, but for some reason with the Hornet that they decided to do it keep that one as a classic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it stings more probably for people because the game's not finished. Do you know what I mean? I think it feels like that kind of like because the game's not even finished, and then now they're already retiring it. I think some people it kind of feels a bit weird. You know what I mean? Like I can get that. I can get that.
Yes and no. I mean. It depends because I felt like the arguments and debates weren't actually about it being maybe there were some less about it being retired for a newer model and more about how they did it, like because it was kind of like this is going out, quick buy it now because it's going to become a collector's piece because now this is coming in. So it was all, and like I think it was Noodle or something that posted something like, this is like fear of missing out type of selling.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the angle was more that than what they were doing.
Yeah, they I'll bring it up. I think if I can get they brought up this was the page. Then this was the the legacy of service in terms of like the idea of that FOMO, right? That sell that they said ever since they debuted.
Yeah.
Bid farewell to a true legend. For me personally, when they introduced the Mark II and they've added on all the extra DPS and everything else, it feels to me like it was the only option for these ships in a way, because it's like the amount of work to bring them up to scratch and to bring purpose to them. I'm guessing they just went, it's just not worth it. As well as probably already in the plan that we are going to retire these anyway, but it's like it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
I
think
some.
I mean, I still feel like that with some of the very early ships. They were so old and so back in the basic design that they need to be scrapped to be updated. They're just beyond saving, I guess, is the thing. I don't know if this was quite at that point.
One right now. Certain Reliant Corn, perhaps, might be one of those ships.
That's not even an old ship, though. That's the classic. I mean, it's turning into like the classic Reliant collector's car.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's one of those. But I'm trying. If you were just like you said, you mentioned the Freelancer earlier, so it's like you got Freelancer. I think some of the starter ships, the Auroras, the Mustangs, the some of the Hornets. I mean, if we're thinking, the Cutlass is good. I think we already had
the Cutlass was a very early ship, and the Cutlass to rebrand again. They didn't go for a classic and a new one. And maybe it's because they updated it a lot sooner than they got round to doing, say, the Hornet.
Maybe.
Because the Cutlass was definitely another one that took a massive revamp and change. I mean, I was going to feel like saying doubled the size of the Cutlass. I can't remember, but they definitely blew it up. Yeah,
they made it. I mean, when Josh Coons he came and did the second version of it. He did a fantastic job because we were flying around with it the other day. It's still, right now it's still one of the best. Kind of like 1-2 people just get in and it's still so quick, nimble. It's got a wonderful ability to be tuned up with shields and weapons and with the turret, and it's just a fantastic ship. And then like you mentioned it the other day with the little grabbing on the sides now as well, being able to get up the sides and in and out, just again takes it to just brilliant. It's just brilliant.
It's hard to beat because it's almost a classic in its own right because it's for like a co-op duo kind of people playing. You've got the fact that the sides open, which means you've got access literally from 3 ends of the ship. You've got a reasonably decent sized cargo to do a bit of like bunker missions, put a bit of cargo when you want to do cargo missions. You've got some turrets in there, so you can have someone that's doing a bit of turret gameplay while the pilot's flying. It really is a good ship.
Yeah, 100%. What's up, Keel? How you doing, dude?
Evening, Keel.
Good evening. Yes, we got somebody. Woohoo!
We got a viewer.
It's like, yay! We got somebody to talk to, and not just talking to ourselves. But although, to be fair, we can just do this. Literally, we do this anyway. It's like, it doesn't really matter. Like, we just talk about this when we're playing other games or whatever. We just still talk about this shit. So that's why we do the podcast. Because like, well, why not just talk about it, record it, and share it with people as we're doing it anyway. But yeah, if you were to list out some of the ships that CIG has got that needed to potentially be scrapped, I think there's probably quite a few. This might be quite a few. You know what I mean? Like,
that's one thing though, is how do they get to the choice between upgrading
Cutlass
it? Like with the Cutlass, it was almost scrapped and remade, and then this is your new Cutlass. Like, what gets to the point where they pick to upgrade it and make it into a newer model, or to completely replace the one that they've got? Or is this going to be a new thing? Are these classic ones going to be a new thing going forward, or is it only going to happen to certain ships? I suppose that's one question.
They haven't really. I don't know if they've clarified in terms of if there are any other ships that are going to be retired. It definitely leaves the door open to there being the Reliant rightly retired. Rightly retired.
It would be perfectly fitting for that ship to be retired before it actually had its debut. It's
just so bad. It's so bad.
By it now, a gimmicky thing at the start. I was thinking this is cool, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
So it would be really fitting for that to just go the same way.
It is not a good. It is not a good. I'm just bringing this down just quickly whilst I just jump onto the Robert Space Industries webpage for 2 seconds, because I want to just do a very quickly.
Kind of order that to like the oldest ships first.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I was just wondering if there was like a quick quick way to do it, but I don't think there is, because you've got to go to the old pledge store, isn't there? And then you search by ships. We'd be here forever. But it's like, but we could do like the initial ones that they sell us. So we could do like the first ones that they kind of show us, the game packages, because this is like when you first go on it.
Yeah, the Aurora. Definitely.
You know, you've got.
I mean, the Mustang was at least a few years after.
They did a rework of this to make it. It was more to do because the entry was so bad. Even though I thought it was kind of cool, but it was so bad that you couldn't really, you kept popping out the top of the ship and stuff. And obviously, the people there was issues with the wings. I think when it landed, they were on the top and stuff. Starfarer retired. Here's the Mark II. Yeah, they're a good shout, Asnog. Definitely. Starfarer is, it's cool. But the problem is they just did all the refueling for that ship, so I just don't think they could probably bring themselves to retire that, unless there's something else. Another ship.
That would be one that they could turn into a classic, because if they've gone, that's what I'm saying, they've done the extra work to revamp it to a certain point. So it's definitely one that they could say, yeah, okay, we're going to go to a new one. Whereas it's some of these older ones where they haven't touched. I mean, Constellation, let's talk about it. It's like
they've improved it, from what I understand.
Now, but
they've improved it a lot more. So I mean, before it was atrocious because the engines fell off the back of it. I don't know if they. I mean, as far as I can tell, it's a lot tankier. It's a lot tankier now. It's got a lot more, firepower. I think they updated the hard
point. It's definitely not.
It's better, but it's still
iconic. It's one of their iconic ships. So it's definitely not one that they're gonna scrap. But I mean. I don't know. Like I always feel like it was designed to look good on the outside, and again, back in the very early days when they didn't think too much about how you're going to walk through the ship and how the cargo. I feel like it's a lot of ship with not much in it. It's like you've got big bulky engines, a big cockpit, and then there's just a very thin corridor that runs down the middle, and a tiny little cargo lift that supports very small amount of stuff. It like. In terms of, like, we were just talking about the Cutlass and how practical that is, like, I feel like the Connie feels, it may not be, but it feels smaller on the inside than, say, the Cutlass, and yet it's a much bigger ship just because of the design of it.
Yeah. I mean, they did the Phoenix, didn't they? And again, I think it was Josh as well, actually reworked the internal of the Phoenix.
Phoenix was a major rework.
And it was, it was much, much better use of the space and stuff, but it still had its fundamental problems. I mean, it is interesting when we're talking about the Mark I Hornet, going back briefly to that. It is interesting, like, we're retiring that. You go on the webpage, you see the Aurora, you see the game package for the two, what they deem the two starter package ships, obviously for the price, 43. Obviously, wherever you are in America and stuff, you'll see different dollar signs, and it's slightly different for you wherever you are, but obviously I'm in the UK. And then they've got the Mark I Hornet here, being sold, do you know what I mean? Being told, look, here you go. It's one of the choices, because they repeated the Mustang twice. You got the Mustang twice, the Aurora, and it's fascinating that they put the Mark I in there, knowing that there is a Mark II, which is I'm a bit like, okay, interesting.
That's more like, I don't know if that's just more the left hand not talking to the right hand as always, and not taking it off.
Probably. And then the first, I'm always curious as well, as if people see if this has like a randomizer, like, if I was to do, like, if I click on the refresh button, does this change? There we go. No, it's always the same. It's always the same order, which is always interesting as well to me. But yeah, this in the wildfire, some of the rarity of some of these skins, this. I think there's a few ships for sure, but it's that, I think the part for me is like, it's hard to, unless there's a direct replacement for something like the Buccaneer 2, because it's like Mark II. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you were to say the Connie or the Cutlass Mark II, then it makes sense to retire it. And so it's like, are there any ships that you would get the Mark II version? And it's almost like, is there a ship that's worth a Mark II? You know what I mean? Like, some of the ships are kind of civilian ships, so giving them a Mark II, it seems a bit, is it right? Is it wrong? I don't know. Then I'm thinking in my head going, well, cars do it, don't you? You got the Ford Mark I, Ford Mark II, Ford Mark III, it's quite normal with cars as well. So yeah, maybe it's okay.
But like I said, what I don't get is what qualifies for it to be needing a Mark II rather than just, we're going to scrap the first one and bring in a new version of it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still going to call it Mark II because, they're calling it Mark II because they're keeping the Mark I. Like I said, whereas the Cutlass, they didn't call it Cutlass Mark II because they scrapped the first one. They just redesigned it.
It was a redesign. Whereas this is an upgrade.
Is it because of where they are in development now and they don't want to get rid of it? Is it because it's more of their iconic ship? And so it feels more adequate to keep it as a classic? Whereas, I mean, maybe, like we said, some of them earlier ones, they could do Mark IIs because they would be considered more classic ships, like like we just said, the Connie, if it's a Chris Roberts favourite, or the Aurora, because it was one of the very first packages you could ever buy. So it would feel maybe wrong to completely scrap it and redesign it. I mean, I'm not about scrap as in you don't get it. I'm on about the fact that, like, the Cutlass, they got rid of it and then re-brought it back out as like almost a different ship.
Yeah.
By how much they blew it up and made it more versatile. I don't know. I don't know what the criteria would be for it.
Do you think? I mean, this is slightly, obviously, I guess. Does it open the path for them to just say, okay, here's now we're no longer going to improve your ships. We've got them to a gold standard, or we got them to a certain. If they haven't reached the gold standard by now, we're not going to do any more improvements to them. We'll retire them, and then we'll just do the Mark II in-game version of those ships, and you'll have to pay the extra $25 if you want them. You know what I mean? To upgrade your, CCU from your current one to that one. As more of a, is it a money grab potentially in the future? Is it something where they're, rather than saying, hey guys, you've got the Mark I Hornet, we're going to retire that ship. And because they don't retire that ship completely and pull it from the game completely, they can still give it to you, rather than saying, okay, we're going to pull it completely from the game. We recognize this is just going to be, you maybe get like, a poster, or maybe you get like just the hologram version, or it just sits in your hangar as just as a visual thing. And we're going to give everybody who has a Mark I Hornet the Mark II one automatically, like free, basically. So it's like, you don't get this one anymore, but you get this one now completely for free. Do you think that there's the chance that CIG could then, rather than having to keep improving old ships, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have to keep improving them anymore. They can just dust their hands off it and say, do you know what, guys? We're going to do this. And guess what? Now you're going to be out of pocket. We're going to make you have to pay. We'll still keep them in the heritage, so we have some of them. Do you think there's a chance of that maybe? Or
I think that's a good point. And I think actually that's, when I think about it, that's probably the way it'll be, because technically if you think about like the game being beta alpha release, I think it's the same for ships. There's meant to be a point when they're considered gold, platinum, whatever they want to call it, standard, as in it's done. The ship is done. And so for them to, if they consider that they've done all the balancing and they think that the ship is meeting the goals that it should do, then they shouldn't be altering it once the game is released and the ship is technically done. So for them to think, okay, we want to improve on this ship, but not massively, we think it could be tweaked, then it definitely opens the road for having a Mark II. Now, I think getting it free is probably happening because it's alpha still, and it seems very unfair to say to somebody, we've made a better version of your ship and you're not getting it. Once the game's live, I think that it may just be another ship that then comes on market, like you just said for the cars. Each year you get a new car, a new model comes out. Now you can keep riding the 5-year-old model if you want, or you can go back to your dealer and part exchange and get the new model. And I think it would be more that than giving you a free one each time just because you own the first one.
Just because you own the first one.
Which defines the classic car thing,
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense when you say it like that. So you'd say once the game's kind of more into that finished stage, at that certain point, then you're gonna have to pay. You should pay. But they're already, in a way, they could. What CIG is like. If they can do it, they will do it. You know what I mean? Right now, even before they even get to that stage, it's almost like established a precedent, because if you did do the freebies, then people get used to that, and then they throw up even more of a stink when it doesn't happen anymore. CIG's communication beforehand usually tends to be a bit poor before suddenly hey guys, we're retiring a ship. Okay,
I think before it's released, though, it doesn't mean they won't do it, but it's definitely more difficult if they didn't give you the free upgrade, because it's like, I'm buying, so say the Reliant, for God's sake, of all the ships, but say I bought the Reliant because I bought it in with the expectation that it's going to work, that it's going to be the best it can be when the game goes live. Now, if they just turn around and said to me before the game's even live, yeah, that ship didn't work too well, so we've done a Mark II version, but we're not giving you it. You're gonna have to pay us extra for it to have your shitty one more functional and change it. Then that's definitely going to rub people up the wrong way.
Yeah.
Whereas, because you're buying that ship to be the best it can be, not for them to just go and make it. Which is, I guess this is why you've got that little bit of debate with the Raven and the Firebird, because they're not the same one, but it's almost like saying, oh look, you couldn't buy this one, so we've remade this.
Yeah, I mean the Firebird one, I think they kind of I think having seen a lot of people's opinions on the Firebird, and the fact that I think we did actually have the comment on that on the show that we first came back talking about. I think you mentioned, like, I don't even know if it was even before or after during the podcast, but they upped the missile count on it because they recognized it was ridiculous. It was like a joke.
The 2012 to 2014.
But it was already a bit of a joke anyway, being so specialized as a missile ship with a couple guns on the side of it. And it's kind of, I've seen some people fly it. I know Keel in chat, he's flew it, and he basically said it's a pile of shit. Which is actually refreshing for CIG, because it's kind of like the first time they've ever produced a ship that's been put into the game, other than the DS Rock, I believe, where it's kind of like, oh, this isn't really the current meta. You know, it's not initially meta. Someone made a mistake. Someone obviously didn't put the numbers in properly, or the missiles quite right. So I think they had to go in recently, and I don't know I think I've got the link to this talking about this.
But the thing is,
where is it? I've got it here.
The Raven, though, is because it's limited. There's not actually that many people to fly it and tell you whether it is shit or not. So they kind of made another version of it without really probably having major feedback from it, because it's not been one of the metagame things to fly and try.
Oh, here we go.
Which is always going to be an issue. You have an exclusive ship, really, because people are going to be like, no one's flying it to be able to give you very good feedback on it.
This made me chuckle. Where is it? Let's go. This made me chuckle. We were talking about how to make the Firefly more impressive. Was this is the current state of the torpedoes. Mm-hmm. These guys launch the torpedoes, and it doesn't go faster than his spaceship. It's like.
Oh, that's funny.
It's like size 9.
It's like he's acting as a shield above them. It's like, it's all right, I'm keeping them covered so they don't get shot down.
He's like making sure. Oh, it's so funny. I think they got another video as well. I think there's that one, and then they have another one. I think here.
Hilarious.
It's behind. He fires it. It just sits behind. I was just like, okay, someone sat there going, we need to make the Firebird OP again, guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to make everybody else's ship's missiles go backwards. Super slow. Now, I know CIG has actually come out and they posted that this was a bit of a mistake, and well, not a bit of, obviously a very big mistake. And this is not the speeds that they're looking for.
Oh man, could you imagine that though? I mean, that would be me dead so many times because I'd fire them and then stop and they would just hit me in the back.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that could happen. That is absolutely hilarious. Oh my god! I saw that. I was just like, oh, that is so funny. That is classic. Someone, I swear, someone was like, yeah, we need to make more cells. But went down, someone from marketing, and had a chat with someone. Fuck up the missiles for everyone else's ships, so they sit behind. Oh god, classic. This one.
Oh, one of those cartoons where they're talking to the missiles. Come on, follow me.
Size 9. He's got 3 size 9 torpedoes sitting underneath that thing. Brilliant. Anyway, shenanigans, absolute shenanigans, classic shenanigans from CIG. But
it reminds me of the good old days when bugs is what made the game entertaining.
They still do. They still are. It's still the getting knocked on your ass. So back to this. In terms of, obviously, you were talking about, you mentioned Moist Noodle, and hopefully we'll invite him on again at some point. I haven't spoken to Noodle for a while. The price of the stuff, you know what I mean? Like the fact that they're selling the whole collection, You know, it's like the fear of missing out. You know, this is going to get it. It's going to be gone. You know, you can buy it with this paint war bond edition. You could buy it with this. The fact that they obviously were pushing that, you know, kind of purchase sale for something that's leaving the game, and then doing like a whole collection of skins and colors, and putting all the, you know, putting a big effort into, you know, well, appears to be a big effort. I'm not sure how much of an effort. I'd be curious if that's that weird thing where it's like, oh, you're putting all this effort in, and then CRG comes out and says, well, it's actually quite easy to do these skins. It didn't take us very long. It wasn't a huge amount of resources to burn. And you're going to go, well, then why aren't you doing that in game then, if it's not so bad to do? But the you know, selling it.
But I that's what I'm saying. That's why I think the outcry was more than the fact that they were retiring it. I mean, I don't care. They're a business. It just doesn't look great, does it? It's like, this is all going out, but here's a big, massive package with 600 quid's worth of ship that's no longer really going to be relevant. I mean, technically, like, the thing is, having it as a classic ship is it's not really meant to be relevant. Like, what you're trying to say is this ship isn't good enough anymore. We've made everything else better. So apart from having it as a glorified thing that you take to a military parade and show off, you know, a bit like you do with the old Spitfires and stuff, and say you would never go and take a Spitfire to war now, but it's there flown to show off what they used to be. So to kind of have this great big, here's a collection of ships that you're going to have, or even just keep pushing the sale of it when it's going out. And you say, what you're saying is now, at this point, now you are purchasing a lesser ship. Here, buy a lesser. I mean, although I think, do you still get the Mark II if you buy them anyway? So.
I don't think you do. I don't think you do. Let me check. I mean, if I was to, I don't know if I can even add them. No, it doesn't even let me do it. It just shows me what they are. Maybe the deal's gone. That's a bit weird, isn't it? Oh, hang on.
Might have gone out by now.
It has been added to my cart. Be careful what I buy here. I'll be fucked.
I just bought 6 packages.
Whoops!
It's like, shit.
They want to buy that. Tracker.
Yeah, I don't know. If it comes with a Mark II, then I guess, not so bad. But it even so. I mean,
see, it includes just the Mark I. Also included FC Hornet Mark I, Killian Blue, 120-month insurance. It doesn't even have LTI. Not that we know how important LTI is. I mean, 120 month is still a very, very long time, granted. Yeah. Aero view hangar, and that's it. So there is no Mark II in this. You don't get an automatic upgrade.
Well, it depends if they say if you've got a Mark I in your...
No, I'm almost... I'm pretty sure it doesn't do it. Well, I'm just going to jump here and remove that from my outbox, because I do not need an old remove.
You don't need a classic.
No. Are you sure you're removing? Am I sure? Yes, I'm sure. I do not need. I'm not buying. That's the one thing I do when I buy ships is like I do buy the new ships. I do look at the newer ones because they have all the latest and greatest bits and bobs to them. So for me, it's like I don't want to have the older spaceships. I'm always looking and improving and trying to get the next one. Like for example, the Ironclad, which is another ship that they've obviously done recently for the concept for Invictus. I mean,
basically, I think people have been calling it the thick caterpillar.
Yeah, it's the Imperial. Let me see if I can bring it up here. So we've got the Firebird, the Selin, the Retaliator. There it is, Ironclad. Got it.
But I mean, this has been, you go right back to the early days when this has always been said. I mean, because people, originally when people were moaning about, say, their Bernard, their Banu Merger Man is.
Yes, I like that's a new name for it now. The Bernard.
What, the Bernard.
I'm going to call it Bernard now.
Say, and the Bernard is not being out yet, even though it's been talked about for ages. But most people that really liked it was like, well, I'd rather they delay it, because the longer it gets delayed, the better the ship's going to be made in the long run. And that's always been a thing that we've said, and it's definitely been noticeable from ship to ship to ship. Each one gets more feet, which always makes the older ones even harder to balance, because it's like you've made it where it can't be upgraded to the standard that the others are.
Yeah, I think for me, if we're talking about like Mark 1s and Mark 2s, this feels like the Caterpillar Mark 2. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm honest.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, yeah.
I know it's not.
As Nog said, there's no Q&A on it.
No. I mean,
I know
it's ugly beautiful. Firstly, that's usually the kind of the way I look at it. It's kind of
that's Drake. Most of the time
it's
for you
very
anyway.
it's very Drakey. I like the styling of it. I think it definitely benefits from the fact that, like you say, we're a bit further on the game. They understand a bit more of how the actual cargo and all the kind of the cargo boxes and tractor beams and all the rest of it. So they've. It'd be nice if this did like a really sweet animation, but of course that's asking way too much. Just tells me.
If you think about, like we were talking about the Connie earlier, like they made that before any of these ground vehicles and shit were even cargo boxes were there. So it's like to have that all made without understanding the size and how your boxes are going to work and the size of your vehicles, which is why we had through the years progresses of like things not fitting in the ship because the hangar bay's just the vehicle's slightly too tall for the hangar bay and things like that. Well, obviously that's been changed as things have gone on because they have ships that they can or vehicles they can put in and say, right, okay, this takes 3 gay cats. This Pride Month. This takes 3 gay cats.
Hey, voting.
And a couple of like other stuff. I'm just going to stop talking now.
He's absolutely wrecked himself. It's fine. So moving on from the gay cats, let's. What I will say about this in terms of my grumble with what I'm seeing here now is the military version. I know it's Drake, and I know Drake do like kind of like. Their stuff is designed to be taken by pirates and upgraded and stuff. I feel that should be more on the players to create with the Ironclad. I feel that the modularity element that should be for us to do for this ship. I don't feel like we should be buying it already as a military ship, if that makes it. I feel like the Caterpillar was originally and still is intended to be a modular ship. We have now just witnessed with the Tally the first piece of actual in-game modularity with spaceships. I really would like to have seen this maintained more what the Caterpillar has in terms of modularity and having military components that could be modularly added to it. So, for example, in the picture where I think you see the driving out bit here with the tanks, you can have the modular part that can be used to make that more of a ramp thing. Or I think there's one here which talks about like the open. There was controversy about will the military version have the opening at the top like the cargo one has, you know what I mean? And I just kind of feel like same with like hard points and stuff, have the hard points, but then make it so that you can have Drake own hard points that will be allowed to have the military versions of those, so you could have tractor beams on there, or you could have guns, or you could do a mixture of both and kind of, you know what I mean? I just feel like it could have been.
I totally agree. I feel like, as always, there's a kind of mixed. I don't know if it's mixed understanding, mixed messaging, or weird focus. I mean, we've gone down the line of ships like the Caterpillar, not got it yet, but supposed to have like the modularity. Then they go away from it again and they bring out like the Hornet with the Mark II Ghost, blah, 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 4 or 5 different versions of it. Then, like you said, this lends itself very easily to modularity because of the way it's designed, and there's not the way they're changing it for the military part. Could easily be just like, well, we'll swap that out and turn that into more military style. And I think also by doing what you're suggesting, which is like having players do it, it makes it more interesting meeting that ship in space. Yeah. Because all you know is it's an ironclad. You don't know whether it's a cargo version, or so you could go up to it as a pirate and think, oh, I'm going to rob this bastard, only to find out that they've jacked it up with a ton of guns and stuff instead, and then it turns around and kicks your ass. That's for you to find out. Whereas everything having its place and a separate thing means you're taking out all that sort of element of it, like people being able to go and not necessarily know what they're approaching. Rather, I don't know. It just seems weird how you'd almost open up modularity with the Retaliator, then take it away again with another new ship.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's just, and they've added, even with the fantastic little mod. I mean, they've added the modularity in a way. This is the bit I didn't understand. It's like they've got the cockpit is module, so the bit comes away from and becomes like a little mini spaceship or a little escape pod or whatever. Yeah. So they have the modular bit there, but they didn't think to, or marketing or whoever just thought, oh, we're going to cash this. And I'm just like, you still could have cashed it. You still can do the Endeavor style. Here's this, and then these are all the military components and parts that you can buy as well with the Ironclad. So you could, they could do this version if they wanted to in a way, and you buy them for extra, pieces underneath it.
I would even argue that they could make more money out of modularity than selling variants, because if not that I spend tons of money on the game, but if I did say I had, just go with that one for example. Yeah, I'm not going to spend 2 lots of 400 quid on them, but I might buy one and then think, well, actually, if I just bought a couple of, or I'll buy a couple of gun placements that can be swapped in and out. That means I've got the original ship plus a couple of module things that I can have, like both. Because I wouldn't want to have both complete variants, and the same as anything else. Like if I bought a Caterpillar, I would be buying maybe all the modules, and then it depends on what I want to do that time I'm going to go in and play as to what modules I'm going to install on my ship. I'm way more likely to buy all the modules than I am to think, oh, I want 3 Caterpillars lined up in my hangar bay, each one doing a different thing. I think it would probably sell more by selling the modules. And
I think you might not sell more initially, but I think eventually you'd catch up because you could keep adding more modules to the ship as a bit more of the gameplay comes along. Well. It allows you to add those modules in. So it allows you to then say, for example, right now they're selling it for £800, the 2 Ironclads, right? There's the normal one, the other one, and they give them some skins in there as well. So let's just say, I don't know, for argument's sake, 700 quid, right? So say £700 and it's 380 for the standard one. By the time you add in, I don't know, let's just say you did 50 quid for every one. By the time you probably get there, and then add future modules, I reckon you would surpass this, and you have more functionality with it, and you can still sell paints and skins and other things like that as along as you go. I think you would pass this number than the 2, and I just think it would provide its bit more future proofing of the product in a way, rather than, especially as this is already still, I know it's still years from this being made as well, potentially. As we know from most concept ships of this size, they usually, going to be several years away yet. So for me, maybe it's just that's the thing. It's still, because it is so far away, it's better to cash your money in and get that extra $200 for people who want to have the military one or both. Because at the moment, the standard Ironclad Assault's 446. The other one is 480. So people will... Yeah. The Assault one.
I guess if they sell it as the special package and people think they're getting to a discount, but otherwise, I don't know. I still feel like there is definitely potential that they could make more money even out the box with it being module rather than 2 different ships. Just because, as Asnog said, and you see it in every modern game, this module's only X amount. So they might not buy all the modules straight off, but they might buy one module, which means they bought the ship and a module, which before they would just buy just the ship. Someone that's not... I'm not talking about the big people that buy every ship that comes out, but there's lots of people that will just buy the one. Now, if there's one and a module you can buy, the chances are they may just buy that module that they really like, the same way people buy skins. And when you look at games like Fortnite and everything else, where it's their little sales, their little things that they're selling is what's making them the big money. Because people see it as not a big purchase, and so it's so much easier to part with your money when it's only 20 quid versus like another 50 quid ship, 60 quid ship, or whatever. Just keep putting those, and I mean, I think if you look at the Endeavour, I mean, loads of people have bought that and every single module that goes with it, every single module.
I mean, let's bring that, as you mentioned that. I'll bring up the Caterpillar as we talk about the Caterpillar as well. I'll go to...
I mean, the Caterpillar's at a raw deal at the moment because it's really one that they were showing off modules on that ages ago. They actually had the modules in being dragged in, and why that hasn't been done over, money, but I don't know why I said it. It's like, why hasn't this been done? Yeah. We know why, but it's annoying that's why they've done it. Yeah, because realistically, we would like touching distance to getting modules in there. Like people are seeing it thinking, wow, they were showing you all the different ones that you could swap out, the sitting bay, the bed bay, the med bay, all these different ones. They had them in, I think it was a grey box, white box, and then it's just like, yeah, well, brush that under the carpet and we'll make something else module instead.
Oh, they don't have we don't have it. Oh, we're no longer in Invictus, so I don't have any.
We'd have to spend $10 on an upgrade instead of on a module instead of a CCU. But that's it though. You probably would.
It doesn't say anything.
You would buy a module. I know. Personally, if I had a ship, and then they started bringing out things that would let me switch the function of that ship, 100%. I think I'd be more likely to buy that than a second variant of the ship.
What was the other ship you were talking
already
about?
Like the Reliant, that was my idea, was having it like the news van, although that went well out of the way. But that was, if you imagine you had that as modules so you could have it as different things, you would probably have sold a couple of the modules to go with it.
Yeah, they've got the variants, mate. They got the variants, the Caterpillar Pirate Edition, and then the Best in Show Edition. But I'm trying to think if there's a place for the details page.
There's none for the modules because they've never actually sold the modules other than showing them off.
No,
in
they never
ATV
sold them. Yeah, so it was the Endeavour. That was the one you were saying. They didn't get far enough. Endeavour, that was it. Although they didn't stop them doing it on the Endeavour. You should be able to see it in just all ships. Endeavour.
It's MISC. That helps. But yeah, I mean, they sold that with just concepts modules. But I know most people that, I mean, it's a big whale of a ship in the first place, but most people I know that said they bought it had also bought all the modules for it.
Yeah, I'd have to go to upgrades. I think, when you do the CCU chain, you can do upgrades. It doesn't show you the modules on here anymore. So you have to go into the upgrades, and then you'd have to, I don't even know if it's available to upgrade to on my ships. I'm not sure. Give me a second. I'll just check. And
they may well have got rid of the modules for now.
See.
But I don't want to delete him.
I don't think so. I don't know if I just need to go and see if you can do ship upgrades, because if you can do ship upgrades, it'll give you it there. So if I grab a ship, I don't know, Hercules.
That's not.
No.
The Caterpillar lifts still don't work.
No.
It's not the only lifts that don't work still.
No, it's not there.
This is Star Citizen.
So all ships.
I wonder if by the time Star Citizen's released, they're just going to get rid of lifts, and we'll just have like teleportation pods that you walk into to get to where you want, because that's the easiest way of making it work. They should have gone down the Star Trek route.
Star Citizen. Modularity.
Yeah, I think, but I mean, because like we're doing the Retaliate, which was a bit of a shock for that one to come with the modules.
Okay.
It's
Got it.
It was almost like an odd choice, and it was hinting down the lines of, here it goes, we're going to be able to do more ships that are modular and stuff, and then to then carry on bringing out more ships that's just got variants. Because I think someone was doing some discussion or poll on about, is that going to be, are we going to see more of it? Have you found it? Have you?
This is not official. This is a webpage, but I don't know whether this is just like people who own these things are selling them, or if they're telling you how much they are in terms of collector's edition. But it gives an idea of what the pods are for the Endeavour, and they're charging £100 for this, $80. So it's like for the Endeavour. So again, takes with a pinch of salt. This isn't. It's not official CRG prices that I can see. These is webpage prices.
Yeah.
So just bear with it, but it just gives you an idea of all the different pods, and it still does give you an idea, even if you're on a black market, how much things are selling for, how much CRG could have sold the Ironclad with, the landing pod, the medical pod, the research pod, the the fuel pod, the telescope. It's they could have done the biome pod for the Ironclad. They could, or the modular, not even pod, just the modularity. Inside the Ironclad, they could have that type of thing easily with the open hangar door for cargo versus whatever. You know what I mean? It's like mining. There's just so many. There's just so many things. And if you think they're going at $100, then if you go back to the Ironclad, what they're selling it there, the standard one was £384. So if you bought two modules or two upgrade modules, and they're both £100, that's £200. You're already more than the Assault. You've already spent more than the Assault straight away. Yeah. And then if you were to add,
And I guess what my point is that obviously you get the people that will buy two with the variants, But what I'm saying is, by having it with some modules, you'll get the people that had no intention of buying more than just the ship.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot of people, most of the ships, if you look at it, they just buy a ship. And so that's it. You're not getting any more money from me. I bought the ship. Whereas if you've got my favourite ship, and say, especially the people that have got like one ship, they're not buying any more. This is how they're having it. So the chances are, if you're like a one ship kind of person, you're going to buy the ship with the package.
Yep.
Then that's it. I'm done. I got the game. I don't have to play. Then you'd entice them with skins because, if this is my one ship, I want it to look nice. I want it up. There's a really cool skin come out. Okay, I'll buy that. So that's already a purchase above what you was planning on buying. Then you make it modular so that it can put a med bed in it if you want it, or don't want a med bed in it, or you can make it a cargo runner one day and a med. I know the problem is it will take away from some of the more specific ships, but all I'm saying is for the ships that are able to do that, where they've done that anyway with different variants, it makes that person that is a one-person ship will potentially buy something extra for that ship, which they would have no intention to do had that not been available. So if I knew that I was only ever going to be a cargo runner, but all of a sudden there was a module where I can make the back half of my ship a med bay, I may consider it. I may think, well, a med bay is really useful and it only loses a bit of my cargo. Sod it, I'll buy the module as well. And so that's what I mean. There's a bigger market there for selling to people that haven't, that would just buy the one ship.
And I mean, and I would also say the concept ship is once the sale for that ends, it's end. But you can still buy the modules until the ship is released.
Yeah.
So you know, that's that. And some people might be like, oh, no, you can't do that. But I'm like, no, it actually, because like you might not be able to afford the extra bits at that time. You might have a limit, you know what I mean? You might have a financial limit. So by allowing these module components to be bought throughout the entire year, you can, when you have the money, you can buy them. And now I know people say, well, you can save up and potentially just buy them when they do, the next Invictus. And to be fair, that would be fine too, because they do have so many more sales than when I was first, it was like one sale a year. Remember, it was one big sale a year, and everyone like kind of just saved for it. And then it's two, and it's almost like three now, I think, kind of, it's like a mini sale as well. So it might not be such of a need to bring the modules permanently on page, but I'm still a fan of that. I'm still a fan of just allowing people to get it when they've got the money and they want to spend. It's there. They don't have to. Because that's the thing, is I always feel like if, for some people, it's like if it's not there, some people like resisting the temptation to then, you might, things happen and you might not have it anymore and it's gone, whereas if it's there to buy and you've got the money, you'll want to invest in it. So that's pretty good. Yeah, but for me, in terms of the ship, the Ironclad, I think it's a pretty cool ship. I think, I think it's, on paper as a concept, it's great. I think it's definitely it benefits from, like you said, the game being more further on. Like leaving ships till later is better.
When I watched the video thing, I do feel like it looked like a great cruise ship. Because there's a lot of them where it's like it's sold as a multi-crew, and a lot of the time it's like, well, I don't really see, apart from the odd jump in the turret type of thing, you feel like there's a lot where there's not a lot of crew purpose. I just felt like this one looked like it had a lot of places where like the crew could be walking up and inspecting the cargo, the crew could be working in different bays or using tractor beams and things like that. It looked like it had, it was just a good ship that does what it's supposed to do, from what I can tell. I mean, it's concept, but it's definitely got it had that sort of feel that a multi-crew could work in it pretty well with lots of different roles.
100%. Right. Just bear with me a second. I am going to...
I've sent you some pictures of the Caterpillar stuff, so if you want to look at that. But yeah, it's just interesting. It does show you the modularity thing, but it's, like I said, it's kind of, it's got the very bottom. There's the video of the ATV where they were showing it off. It was like so close and yet so far. I'm sure we'll get there eventually, but it's, like I said, it's a little bit odd that they chose not to pursue that, or unless it's because, like I said, the lifts aren't working, so it's like we can put the modules in, but it'll end up breaking something else along the way. Whereas I guess the Retaliator was a little bit easier to do that with.
Okay, so we got the Caterpillar. Hang on, 2 seconds. This is quite a very, very detailed very detailed breakdown of the Caterpillar. Hang on. There it is. Talks about everything, best in show, all the variations of it. Price 330. I mean, this is 330, and then the Ironclad is
not much more.
Not much more. Again, like I say, I do feel this
I don't
is
like your dollars to pounds.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be, but still, it's not a huge thing.
See, now you're falling for the Star Citizen trap. Oh, it's not that much more.
Yeah, I know. I'm already. It's just it is what it is. It's ridiculous. Again, the classic. It is so much, and then you just suddenly go, "Hang on a minute." Just take your head out of the room, walk away, take a breath, and then look back at it again, and you'll see it more clearly. You're not sniffing the copium. Yes, I mean, I'm just trying to see the review of it. So this is like the original, because it has the little module bay there, the little command module, and then you've got the cargo modules.
That supposed to come off? Oh no, that wasn't supposed to come off.
Yeah,
I thought it was on the Caterpillar. That whole side bit was supposed to come off.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. That's what I was like. And I think it's, again, it speaks to that modularity. That's what I was saying. That the Ironclad, they just like they just splashed a teeny tiny little bit of modularity onto the concept, and I just feel like they could have put a whole amount. And maybe the reason they didn't do that is because they didn't want people to think this is too much of the Mark II to the Caterpillar. Because that's like the last redeeming selling quality of the Caterpillar over the Ironclad is, well, I'm going to be able to make my Caterpillar better because I'll be able to take all these parts off and readjust them, and it gives me a reason for why I want a Caterpillar over the Ironclad. And by you adding modularity to the Ironclad just makes it the Caterpillar Mark II. And I'm like, yeah, and CIG could probably
but I mean, it's like anything. You've got the iteration of a bigger ship, though, haven't you? It's the next step up. The Caterpillar can be run on a much smaller crew. Yeah.
So I mean, there's space for both of them personally, and but it's
I mean, it was so far along, but it's like people think, oh, their ship's just around the corner, and then it gets shelved, and that's
their module.
That's what happens. Yeah.
Drake Herald, one for retirement. No,
I'm
just thinking of some of the. I'm just trying to find some of these ships. Trying to just like we'll suddenly find this all like the Rock DS, 100%. And I mean, we're talking about how good the Cutlass was, but CIG did produce the Cutlass Steel, that's another one that could well and truly be removed and deleted from the archives. There's a couple. There could be some variants.
I think some people still like it though. I think people like the guns mounted on the open doors on the side.
Again, with modularity, that shit should just be on the normal Cutlass. You should just stick those on the normal Cutlass. You don't need them on the other ones.
They should be just on. Yeah, you didn't need a whole new ship for it. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. So I think that tells a few. Yeah, no worries, man. Corsair. There you go. Look, Corsair, the Herald, the Buccaneer. Buccaneer's coming back into its own now. Buccaneer is back, baby. Again. It's all to do with those variations of those hardpoints. Makes it really exciting and things you can do. It's awesome. The cockpit detaches. What up, Bam Bam? How you doing, buddy? See it more clearly in your hangar. Yeah, definitely. So for me personally, I'm kind of like, I just feel like with the Ironclad, I actually honestly feel they could have made more money. If they made it modular, I'm a big fan of that. I prefer that more than the variations. I think standalone Ironclad and then sell the modularity, make it so that the players make their ships more variety and mixed up and twisted up and dangerous and scary, and you don't know whether it's a casual or it's going to be super dangerous, and you have to scan the ship and bring some more of that gameplay into it. For me, that's what I'd like to see more than variants. I felt like that for a while, and I think if anyone's played Starfield, I think one of the only standout pieces I think was their customization building of their spaceships was fantastic. So definitely want to see more of that. I think.
I mean, you could even kind of do that. More to certain manufacturers were more modular than maybe others. So others do variants, and some do modularity, or a little bit of both.
Right.
Even if you had like certain things could be modular, so you can't do it. One ship can do everything, because like you said, then you take away from some of the newer ships. But I definitely would have thought that there was, like, you could have some elements that are module to it.
Do you get it in the inventory? Is it a one-time use? See, like, this is just like a. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to move on to that one. That's something else. 700 mil. Is it even a thing? I mean, personally, if you look at mobile phone games, they make billions. You look at, I mean, the latest game that's going to come out from Grand Theft Auto, which is building GTA 6, will make. I think that's going to be $1 trillion game. It's just insane. Maybe not $1 trillion, but it's going to be billions, because it's just. I mean, just talking about the Rage 9. I think it's the Rage 9 engine that they've been using on it. It's just like, oh, and they're talking about how the graphics between GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2, this is even going to blow that out of the water, and people are just talking like crazy. Now, I know it's hype building, but that's massive, and I just think they make that the amount of money CIG makes isn't really, in a weird way, it's, whilst it is a lot of money compared to like a small indie studio, it's not a lot compared to a lot of game studios. You know what I mean? I just, it's one of those weird ones. It
is weird because I think it's hard to know. Well, like what's new money and what's money. I mean, it's all new money, but what's money coming from people that were always backers, and how much of it's coming from new backers would be really interesting to know. Kind of like, is it new people coming and joining and getting on board and thinking, yeah, this is something I want to be part of, or is it that we've just got some people that have got a lot of cash sitting around that like to keep pumping money into it because they want to keep supporting the project and they want it to be better than it is. So yeah, it's kind of because I mean that's the only thing that makes it seem like big money compared to some of these other ones, because you're talking about games that are finished, and so they're selling stuff for something that's technically already a game, whereas this technically isn't.
Yeah, for me, it's old news in terms of, like, you know, whenever the clickbait stuff comes along, I just kind of go, for me, the big number is when it's exciting, is when they hit 1 billion, you know, and I'm just like, excited to see them hit that 1 billion number and be the I mean, it's already the greatest. Yeah, it's already been the greatest success of any Kickstarter, I think, or any kind of this type of game of any kind. We're all spaceship junkies at the end of the day, you know. And they make the best spaceship junkie food of any spaceship making game out there by miles. So yeah, no, I mean, for me, it's not a big news. I know for some people, it, you know, outside of the world that look in on it and they go, oh my God, this made so much money and they haven't even released a game. And I'm like, that's for me is why Squadron 42 is so important, is so that it comes out well, get a good game, and then it's that conversation is finished, put to bed. I mean, I know some people will still harp on about whatever. There's always going to be haters, but the ability to just be like, nah, they made a game, they finished the game, it's a great game, and you know, we can trust and say, look, this is what they did, this is their proving ground, and this is the persistent universe, and we still have part 2 and part 3 of the single player to come, and I think it just puts CIG in such a positive place going forward. I
think you still have the issue that the majority of the journalistic articles and stuff is that some of it, I think, is kind of what you're talking about, is clickbait. It's literally there to get people to read their article. They don't have to even believe what they're saying. They're just doing it because it's going to get some traction on it. And like, but for people that are ignorant about the project, then it's a case of you the difference between Star Citizen and most of the other games you were sort of quoting, and I actually talked about it today with Jo, my wife, because she was like, oh, not that scam again, because people don't realize sometimes how long games take to make. And they're talking about, I mean, there was like Doom. Was it Doom or Duke Nukem 4 or whatever it was? It took like something like 16 years, and it's like, this is a first-person shooter game based on stuff that they've already had before and that, and it's like, I know you can't. People are never going to want to argue about the depth of the game and why it's taking so long. But the reality is, there's lots of games out there that you just don't hear about until they are at the point of being released, and so it doesn't feel like you're waiting a long time. In fact, I even saw recently someone, I don't know if it was on Twitter or something, saying that should game developers even advertise their game if they're longer than a year out, because of probably the same thing. You're like, oh, flipping hell, you've advertised this game, you've hyped it up, and now we're waiting over a year and it's still not out. And so people think that's a long time. And it's just that this Star Citizen, because of the way it was funded, because of the way it's run, we've heard about it for it so much earlier than you would normally on a standard game.
Yeah, 100% I agree. 100% I agree. I think, they don't do the homework a lot of the time as well. The lazy clickbait titles. You can tell straight away when people are quoting things, like it's that they quote things from like older articles or from older kind of pieces. They haven't done their real homework on it. They haven't really dug into it in any shape or form. They've just gone, copy paste and just done a quick clickbait. And it's kind of like, nah, if you really dig into it more, you'll see there's more to it. And I think with Summit streaming it recently, into it more. No, but you get I think with Summit streaming it and then some of his friends coming in, you get this lovely kind of like the people that get it. Like I think Dr. Disrespect and a few other people, they go like, let them cook. You know what I mean? They get it. They're like, let the studio. They're doing something special over there. And then you'll get Shroud. And you'll get somebody else who comes in and he goes, this is a pile of shit. And it's not that they're necessarily wrong or, we've been brainwashed or whatever. I just think they don't know how to articulate in enough. They haven't got the time, energy to articulate what they really want to, what they mean to say, and they don't really want to go into it because it's like, this isn't ticking any of my boxes. This isn't appealing to me. Yeah. I want my games that finish, that are worked, that polished, all the rest of it. And then they look at it and they go, see that experience, and then they see the money that people are saying, and they put the two together, and then they make a very quick comment without really being able to truly express it, and that's life. But it doesn't necessarily mean what they say is wrong. It's just they just haven't got the time to express. I think a better way.
Yeah, it's very similar to the actual articles themselves. There's a lot of content creators, which is something we can touch on in a bit, but that quote them and say, oh, I knew this was coming, this is lazy clickbait title. But technically the title is correct. The game has funded 700 million. The game has no release date. Those two sentences are accurate. No matter how you want to look at it, how you want to, it may think that it's shit or whatever, it's an accurate statement. It doesn't mean it's a good statement or a bad statement or one that you should read into. It's just a statement.
It should be ... However, and then, you know what I mean?
If you actually wanted to write an interesting article. But the thing is, because they're writing this article every time it reaches a milestone, they're not going to keep they do keep respurging the same shit, but they're not going into however this every time. It's the debate. The main thing is, let's stick this headline on, and then let's almost, like you said, copy and paste. It's not because you can write that article without doing research and it be accurate, because you'll be like, it hasn't got a thing, it's been in development, it's sold more ships, it's had more sales, it's still no closer to a release date, and all that's true. You've got an article, boom, done. If you try to talk about it in any other way, you've actually got to do some research. You've got, why hasn't it done it? How much have they worked on it? What's improved? What's not improved? You know what I mean? It takes work, and that's the same as what you're saying with some of these content creators. They're trying it because it's in the headlines or whatever at the moment, and then they can't be asked. The ones that say slagging it off can't be asked, or maybe they just don't like it because it's not their thing. And if you don't like something, you aren't going to look too deeply into the state it's in. It's those that play it and then feel something for what they're trying that will then go into looking into it and trying to work out, why is it in this state? Why is it where it is and how much it's earned? Yeah, because they like it. Who's going to go? In terms of like these clickbait articles, if something flashes up with Pokemon and how crap the new Pokemon world is, or how they're scamming people, I don't click on it because I'm not interested in it. So I'm definitely, if I tried it, I'm not going to be researching it and telling everybody, unless I've wanted to actually go and do a thorough sort of search on everything. I'm not going to, and I think it's the same with Star Citizen.
Yeah, I think there's that for some people as well. They get that burn, like maybe their first experience, they play the free fly, they get in, they don't have a good experience, they go, what the fuck, you know what I mean? Like a couple of 20-30 minutes of experience crashes, depending on what stage. If you joined in the 3.18 patch, for example, you would be, I'm pretty sure a lot of them, they knew that. I bet you the reason why they even CIG talks about that is because they see the numbers, so they see the retention, they see the players that play, and then how quickly they leave. So they can see that, so they know, and they knew that for this current patch, they couldn't do it. And let's just, hands-off praise, without question, the patches that they've dropped this time by miles, other than bugs, which we know are there, the most stable patch I have ever played in 8 years of Star Citizen. So absolutely fantastic job, the guys there, to deliver it. And they made the right call for their money-making machine and their Invictus time period to pull back the cargo out of it. You know what I mean? They've done exactly, Bam. The server recovery is fire too. The way that, granted, we played it the other day, and Miz and I, and suddenly you just know the server's dying, and so you have that kind of weird period of time where it's like, do I want to stay and wait for the server to recover and kind of refresh itself on this server? Or do I just want to jump back to the main menu if I can, and then try and catch a server that's maybe not at the end of its life, or you know what I mean? Is that kind of like once the server starts deteriorating, it's like, how long is that deterioration going to be before it gets good again? You know what I mean? And that for me is kind of, we're kind of just playing a bit more recently, so it's like trying to get back to understanding the little nuances and kind of knowing how bad a server is, not bad, all those fun things that you learn as you play it. So for me, but they've done a fantastic job of that.
Yeah,
amazing.
It's definitely taken them a long time to well, I don't know it's to realize, but it does feel like it's taken them a long time to realize that you keep doing these free flies and you're showing it off in like the worst possible light, because you're having not only and I know Detox a lot of times has tweeted out, he's just like, why do you keep doing this? You put the free flight on, you put the jump town on, you put the Xenothreat on, and then you put a Invictus on, and whack the servers to hell, and then you expect a new player to log on and go, this is garbage. And I've played quite a lot of early access games, and if I'm logging on and the thing doesn't work, and I have to either really want to play that early access game to keep ploughing on with it, or there has to be some sort of solution, like it has to start working. Whereas if you've got a free fly and it's only 7 days, and every day of the 7 days you log in, you can't do shit. No wonder people are going to go with a sour taste in the mouth going, this is crap. They've had, and then it goes back to the whole, they've had 10 years, they've had 15 years to do this. Yeah. You can't even log on the game still. And then that fuels all that stuff again.
Yeah, exactly. And it can be a lottery experience. I feel like if you don't get that experience, you get a different experience with Star Citizen. You get to enjoy it generally a little bit more. You get to have more of that wide-eyed, like, oh my God, this is incredible. And if you're there's always got to be a little bit of a natural like of these type of games as well there. But once you kind of get into it and you get that first 6 months of Star Citizen, I find to be, you'll always ignore most of the problems because you want to get back to this amazing experience of this game. The interesting thing is, and I spoke about this before with Star Citizen, and we've talked about it, is when we were playing the game, you'd have, I call it kind of a rubber band effect, where you'd get into the server, you'd get maybe 20 minutes before the server would crash or something major would happen, and you'd have to restart it. And you'd have a simple goal, and you'd be constantly going to that, and the rubber band would then twang you back to the beginning again. And so you never really got to experience the slower element of Star Citizen to a degree. You got frustrated, but you're always rushing to do something, and it's always exciting. As the servers are now super stable, it's fascinating to see how that experience now changes the game. How do I say this? It's like,
you start to testing the game more, and the gameplay more, rather than you're just fighting against the bugs.
Yes, exactly. And then you start to see, like, this is you see how much the the sandbox doesn't have sand, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Or it's not very deep. You know, like it's very thin, and that for me is kind of like it's one of the. Again, I've spoken about it. It was about many years ago, but it's one of those things now, and it's much more exciting to talk about now because we know Pyro is just around the corner. It is that experience of when you put, orange juice into a bottle, condensed orange juice, and then you add the water, the gameplay, and you get lovely juice. It's fantastic. With CRG bringing Pyro, they are now adding a bigger sandbox again, like an even bigger sandbox again. And it's going to be fascinating to see, is the sand going to be enough, if that makes sense, to value? Will we filling that with enough sand, or is this just, is it going to be a cookie cutter copy and paste? Because I played Pyro, and firstly, I didn't get out of the station because I just spent most of the first hour just probably killing people in the station because I chose the most violent one by mistake. I didn't even know that it was the one without the restrictions. As soon as I found out I could kill people, we just went full murder hobo because it was just hilarious. It reminded me of the good old days of Grim Hex and just killing everything. It was brilliant for a bit. Until then, and then I eventually died, and then it was probably got away, and it had it was kind of fun. It had like all the solar stuff, and going to fly into a few new locations and stuff. But it was very clear to me. It was like, this is like there aren't different things to it, but it's very much a reskin of some of the stuff we've already done in Stanton, and that makes sense that they would do some of that. When you go to other systems, you're going to need to keep similar elements, in different systems. But it was like, is there going to be a situation where they need to add? We really do need to add more of those gameplay.
It's 100% going to be cookie cutter copy of Stanton. It's just that it's going to be more lawless. Yeah. That's why people get excited sometimes on new location. It doesn't always mean a better game. Not until everything else is working. You're just having a new map. It's like some of the early access games we've played. It's like, we had, I think like Valheim kind of did it. We now had the Ashlands. We now had the Waste. Like, it's great, but if you don't put anything in there, you're not really extending the game. You're just making something that's prettier to look at for another bit longer. And then that will slowly wear off. You've got to add more to it. Now, obviously, Pyro's a little bit more than that because you're going to get... But it probably increases the sandbox element maybe a bit more because you're going to get the fact that people are going to PvP in there. So you're going to definitely probably increase that. But you have got the danger then that you're increasing... So you really need to increase the numbers because... you're increasing the space for everybody to be at, right? So instead of having 50 people in Stanton, you've now got potentially 25 people in Stanton and 25 in Pyro. So you definitely got to increase the numbers at the server and everything else to help build that.
Yeah. What's up, Detox? We were just talking about you. I was just thinking about you. You started this whole conversation. I was talking about you because he was playing. Detox was playing the other day, and it got me thinking about. We were talking about like gameplay, CRG needing gameplay, and the experience of when we play this game. Back in the day, you just try to get to a short location without the server crashing. Now the game is so stable, and we were praising them so much for doing such a great job of stabilizing the game. It's like we have a different experience now, where it's like you're needing a gameplay. You're like we got to throw some of this gameplay in, and then it's like, and then we're going to go out to get Pyro, and it's like, oh god damn it, okay, cookie cutter. Is there going to be more of the gameplay into the game? It's So hey, what's up, guys? Welcome everyone that's popped in. How you all doing? We're back. Some of you might remember the Asylum podcast. We're back every week. Yay! Well, yeah, every week, as much as we can. So big topic for the night, because I know that the time is ticking, and I don't know how long we're going to be on this subject, which was really interesting. Inside Star Citizen last week. Balance, which was really... I'm going to bring up the video if I can.
I've got a video.
I've got a video. So hopefully it works.
Works out. You can't find the video.
No, I got it. We got it. That's the Ironclad. We were talking about that earlier. All right, pause. Here we go. Balance. We'll talk very brief. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but just a bit of the beginning.
You mentioned 140 ship records for master modes. Is this a pipe dream? Is balance actually an attainable thing?
Okay, I am so like, I don't know. this is such an interesting conversation. It feels like they finally had this. They finally talked about balance. I don't know. I don't even know if they've ever really talked about balance. And they had I think they had the three guys there.
Not a pipe dream at all.
Let's just listen to the initial bit and then we'll talk about it.
So, yes, we had 140 records, and we did a very quick weapon tuning pass and a little bit of a health pass for some components and ships. But we're also getting a huge amount of data from the players actually playing that stuff. Internally, when we develop stuff, it's sometimes hard to judge whether or not we reached the right balance because we have a vast array of ships and items and all that. But when you watch player playing it, then you get an idea what's happening. That said, as I said, like the current pass that we have on the balance should not be treated as this is now the final product thing. It's really just a stepping stone because it just sets a little bit the stage for the vastly bigger changes that are coming to in terms of like to 4.0 and beyond. Because there will be new gameplay loops and so on.
I think a huge step we took right now is actually that we set our intentions very straight, right? So we know exactly what we want to achieve, and now we actually look for the data sets inside, like what players are actually experiencing right now, and we use.
I just want to pause it there very quickly, just to kind of re-emphasize, just as a reminder, because it comes into an interesting conversation later. He's talking about how they've really set We're really clear on our goal. We're really clear. We've all set our really clear goals. The other guy saying is balance is completely an achievable goal.
These observations to improve the balance even more.
It's achievable.
What you got, Rich?
Not really.
Yeah.
And then this
on
is
the
the
overall question, is balance even possible? Do we want balance? As in, do we want everything to be balanced? Because we...
Just carry on.
Because the kind of nature of balance is the imbalance. That makes sense for me. Because
you've just got like, what even is balance? What is
balance? Yeah. Carry on.
Because we've got to capture
let him cook
all the unique characteristics of the ships, and that throws them off in all different kind of different kind of directions. And we've got to capture that balance to make sure that within the game context, the ship fits within the game, but every ship needs to feel different and offer different things and have different character to them. So that's kind of the complex nature of balance. And then we have to balance the game with the other features that affect flight. So basically, as Jürgen said, this is the starting point of the rebalance of the game. But then, with 4.0, it's going to evolve massively. With the engineering gameplay, it's going to have a significant impact on how the ships are in the game. So we're going to kind of reset again there, and then we're going to look at the data to see if we're delivering the gameplay we intend. So it's a juggling act, and it doesn't really ever end with a game like Star Citizen because the game, it's a live.
Okay, I'll pause it there to go kind of back to the point there. So for me, when they were talking about balancing, it was. We're all together, we're all in alignment, but then all of a sudden it's like somebody's completely thinking slightly different to the other one. One's like, yeah, we can do balancing, it's totally doable. And then Rich is like, well, what do you need balancing? What is like finished? What is released?
I mean, that's a good get out clause, isn't it? Right? We don't need to balance it because I felt like there was a lot of the word balance being said with actually no context whatsoever. We need to balance the flight with the mechanics to balance the ship so that they feel differently while balanced. Like balance with what? And are you talking ship to ship balance? Are you talking fighter to fighter balance? Are you talking manufacturer to manufacturer balance?
For me, my first thing is that I do feel a little bit. This is one of those beautiful moments where a question's been thrown, and maybe they haven't been able to sit together as a team and have a front-facing kind of like very unified response. Because I feel they really should have all been saying, "Yep, 100%. This is what we're going." If they're all in alignment, You know, it should all be, this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to balance, and it be very, very clear. And Rich, wonderfully, thank you, Rich, threw in this just very honest kind of like, I think that's kind of one of the reasons why the state of the game at certain times is where it is because people obviously are different. People have different views of it, and things change, and design leads come in, design leads go out, and things, look at the flight model, for example, things are always constantly moving around, you know what I mean? So for me, they really should have been a little bit more straight off the bat all together on that one. Personally, just as a critique, just on it, I was like,
don't you feel that this is going to be a subject that
honest.
It's almost like they're not even, like, you're not going to come to an agreement around a table. If you sat 10 developers around a table and said, let's discuss balance, do you really think you're going to get them all to come up with the same argument and agree with what they think balance is between stuff?
No, I like I like the honesty of it. I think it's more, I like the fact that he did it because I think it does show the truth. It's not a lie. It's not really a lie. I think I quite like that in a way they did that because it really does. Because I would have felt probably less believable if they had all been saying the same tune.
Yes, balance is on its way.
Yeah, but it was just fascinating. It was such a polar opposite of the other two in terms of what they were saying. I thought it was really interesting, and I could imagine just sitting, like you say, around the table discussing how they're going to balance this. Because I've said before many times, if I needed a job, the best job at CryEngine for retirement, other than Chris's job, really is the balance team. You know what I mean? Because they are got a job for life. It's going to be absolutely insane the amount of balance. Because there's just, I mean, was it 100? They said 140 plus ships plus whatever new concept ships are coming in. You know, like, and I think Rich does make a valid point in terms of, I think it's actually less. The thing that you can balance all of it is, I don't believe that. If that makes sense, do you know what I mean? I feel like you can. I'm actually more with Rich on this one. I don't think you can balance this game properly, 100%. I don't think it's doable. I think it's an unattainable. It's you aim for it. It's like aiming for excellence, but achieving perfection. I think you can aim for it, but I don't think they'll ever be there.
What do you mean by balance it?
Yeah. What do you mean by winning?
What do you mean by balance?
What are you winning?
That's what I'm saying. No, you say you don't think they'll ever balance it. Balance it how? In what respect?
Okay, so I mean,
you're not going to get a small fighter balanced with a capital ship. You're not going to get a cargo vessel balanced with a small fighter. It's like, I don't know. In terms of combat, then you're looking at potentially ships that are balanced, same size ships are balanced against each other. But it's like economy and stuff. It's you've got so many variables. So like if you talk about like a balanced fight, even between two sides, like two capital ships, and then the little ship, does one ship bring one that takes everything out of power? Does one bring a missile boat? Does one bring there's so many variables. It's going to be insane to even consider trying to, even if you can even work out what balance is before you can even then reach that sort of balance. I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of, then there's what you're saying. Then there's the balancing of, buying ships, upgrading ships, balancing like the web page. Someone mentioned in the chat there, going, balancing out the web page to sell spaceships. They obviously do a lot of focusing on that level of balancing and trying their best to make sure ships price balance, increasing all that kind of side of things. There's the balance of obviously the handguns. I think Xperia put a post out, a fantastic post showing all of the guns, and kind of like tiered them all out based on like S-class all the way down in terms of the quality of the weapons. I think that shows that team there is doing a pretty damn good job of balancing out the FPS element in terms of weapons and stuff. It's not going to be perfect, like anything. I mean, anyone here plays any first-person shooter game, the balancing on any of them continues all the way along, especially as they add new weapons all the time. That there in itself shows. And that's a much less ambitious game than Star Citizen, and far less pieces.
I would say the guns, I would tentatively say it's easier than, say, balancing ships, because you've got first person, you've got a much smaller varied field that you've got to make these things work under. Whereas obviously ships, you start getting it gets a lot more complicated, because generally in first person you've got a gun, a person. Well, I guess not. You still then get ground vehicles and stuff. But if you're trying to think of just gun person to person, you've just got to get the balance between a bullet weapon and a laser weapon and things like that. So it's a little bit easier, shall we say. I'll say that with no knowledge of trying to balance shit, because I know even like in Helldivers 2, I was watching like a video on, and then I was going, yeah, that gun's shit, that gun's shit, that gun's shit. So that even that, which is a much smaller game and less ambitious, there's loads of guns that people just, there's no point even using that. And then you've got obviously the higher tier stuff, which people say are much better.
But you make a really good point though, because like anyone here, if anyone in chat has ever played Helldivers, I've been playing it. We've been playing it a bit recently, and they do the perfection of balancing, whereby there's like heavy, medium, light armor, and all of the armors are statistics. All the stats on the side, other than give it a few little perks on a few pieces of armor, they're all thereabouts pretty much the same. There's very little difference between the armor. It's almost just purely a cosmetic difference change. So it's just a choice between how you really want to look rather than the gear. And it's kind of in that weird way, I found myself kind of, I don't know, it just felt, I don't know, cheated in a way. Like I kind of liked the maybe because it started and is so unbalanced at times and so all over the place, with metas and stuff. There was like a part of me that's like, I'd like to have no more of a reason or a bit more wider variation between stuff. You know what I mean? Like this gives you a really strong advantage in this specific thing and not so much in this. And you kind of like, you have to pick and choose between missions and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Which straight away then makes it unbalanced. But not necessarily in a bad way, but that is exactly it. It's like, are you going to introduce that sort of thing? Which again, it does work the same with ships as well. If you have ships that are just missile boats, for example, like on its own against something, you could say that's definitely unbalanced because you're just going to fly in, do a bombing run, blow the crap out of something and fly off. But that's in its own little bubble. Then you start putting in it against small light fighters that can get in and out and weave past all the missiles. Then you start bringing that balance back. So there's going to be like an element of self-balancing by people, what they throw against each other, so what's coming at you, then you'll react to that situation and who you then bring to counter that situation. It's the same way as if you're being pulled out of your quantum jumps by people with the the quantum jump things,
the mantis,
or so that's going to change a fight compared to someone that doesn't, a group of pirates or whatever that doesn't have that. So I guess if you're going to have different ships, you're probably not going to get balance in that respect. You're going to have to get balance via how people react to combat situations. The only thing I guess you could potentially talk about balance in terms of, should a tiny light fighter be able to blow up a capital ship on its own?
No.
Does that sort of balance? It's like, well, no, that makes no sense. Otherwise, all your ships in between are invalid. So there's that type of balance in.
But there's always I think everyone thinks of like a small ship blowing up a massive capital ship. I swear, I think maybe it's just me, but your mind always goes to that little pilot in Star Wars. You always go to that. There's that little guy in his ship, loses control, flies in and rams the Star Wars ship. Super Star Destroyer comes down, and he's kind of takes out the biggest ship in the game. And so I swear, and then Chris obviously, there's always, that's, I think it's always in your mind this moment of glory you could just take out. And I'll always remember like back playing older flight models, and a lot of people here probably don't know this. I don't know if they still have these type of bugs in there, but there was this thing where if you shot, your aim was beautiful and you shot the cockpit, you sometimes on certain ships you would go through the shields on the front and you'd get an immediate kill. You'd get an immediate pop the ship, and it was so satisfying because you could have been against like the greatest, like let's say AV1s or whoever the top PvP pilots are now. If you just got that, you could 99.9% of the time he's gonna wipe the floor with you. But if you just got that one little sweet shot and it went at the right place at the right time and they just pop them, you know what I mean? It's just, the problem is the guys who are really good, they get really good at finding that little sweet spot. They just pop everyone, and I think that's sadly that's the that you got to close that down. But
that is exactly the difference between a film and a game. In a film that works because it's part of the story plot. In the game that totally doesn't work because, in case you haven't noticed, people like to exploit shit.
Yes.
And somehow players, if they find a weakness, that is no longer just a one cinematic moment. That is every time you bring out your capital ship.
You're right.
Every time there will be a little Anakin fucking Skywalker or whatever flying through the middle of it, blowing the fucker up. That is not something you can play.
No, 100%, absolutely on point. That's exactly what you can do. But you might. But the thing is there's that, like you said, there's the rational, and then there's the heart wants and the brain and just that moment. But yeah, you're absolutely on point with that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, when I'm flying in my shitty Reliant that can't even fly in a straight line, if I can just go around and start taking out capital ships, I'll be loving it because they're spending an absolute fortune on their ships while I'm here in my little fucking Reliant going, come on.
But but it looks, again, it is that you said, it's the cinematic experience. We've seen it. I mean, Detox has made some of those videos, I think, where the dude with the javelin on the ground, and as the ship takes off, and you just like you've hit it a couple of times, and you got this, it's got no shields, and you blow it up, and it's like pieces everywhere, and it just looks awesome on a short form clip. But yeah, if that was like it was a hack, you're right, it just gets abused 100%. So yeah, I mean, in terms of balance, like there's balance and then there's fun, right? So just as we're talking about kind of the fun experience, and you were talking about big ship combat and engagements and talking about like small ships engaging capital ships or bigger ships. For me, I feel like you should be able to rewarding movement and skill is always been my big thing that I wanted to see more and more of that come back into the game with Star Citizen. More movement, more skill of the pilot through dodging and stuff like that. So for me, the gameplay got to a place where turrets are so much more better. They should be able to engage smaller ships at greater range, and that should be your fear factor. So if you're a pilot, increase the maneuverability of the ships so they can get in closer. But I do feel like their task then is to kind of get in and then take out the turrets as such. They can't take out the big ship, but they can disable, they can weaken it and kind of like weaken it down for the next tier of ships to come in to take it. Or the bigger ships fighting. I don't think small ships should be taken out. They should be taking out turrets and disabling systems, and the poor little guys on side have to be running around trying to repair the turrets and all the rest of it, bring them back up.
It's kind of when you see, I guess, cinematic space battles and stuff. It's like you've got the big capital ship, then you've got the ships that want to take it out are generally going to be, say, medium-sized ships, but they're slow and they're bulky. So you've got these big fat turrets that are going to shoot the slower ships down. So you need the small ships to take the turrets down, which then allows the medium-sized ships to get close to the capital ship and start shooting it down. Yeah. And so, like, in terms of if you want balance, that's that. I suppose you're trying to make ships fit within their role, so that sort of combat can happen, I guess. But then they go and stick like the ion cannon areas in there that can one-shot capital. Like, oh, look at this, is great. We can shoot capital ships with this gun that's got wings. So I don't know. They screw themselves over at times. Yeah, I mean, it's like in the movie Independence Day when the old fighters come in, and then they suddenly initially they're super comfortable, they got their shields up or whatever, and then they just send out all the little ships to engage with the other fighters. It's like that's the fighters versus fighters, big dogfighting in space, everyone kind of engaging, turrets kind of taking out a few of them, but then, like you say, focusing more on some of the medium, more heavily armored ships as they're kind of approaching and trying to get in on the big hits. You kind of that's the fun and the balance. And so what they're tasked with doing is trying to achieve that experience where there's a
a scale up between sizes and levels of ships. We still don't have armor in the game, which drives me bananas. But there must be a real reason for that. I mean, at one point, Chris Roberts was meant to be actually coding, I believe, the armor, because they want this whole kind of bullets going through armor, or all this kind of stuff. And I mean, I love the ambition and stuff, but there's a part of me that's like, it's been a long time, guys. You talk about balancing. I don't know how on earth they're going to balance when they haven't even implemented armor, and there's so many ships. Talk about the Mark I Hornet and the Hornet series and a lot of the Anvil, they're all about armor. They're all about armor plating. I mean, the Carrack has a front nose piece, which is all about armor. We haven't even got that on the Carrack. That's supposed to be, armor protection from ships and also probably from solar flares and all the rest of it. I'd love to see when Pyro comes in, that bit added to everyone's Carrack, so it will protect us against those solar flares when we are in Pyro, so you don't get blinded. You just drop that armor shield when a flares come in, and you're like, I'm good, So I don't know how that. Yeah, the balancing is going to be ongoing, but they have some massive balancing at the moment with the flight model. Now, we're not going to touch on the flight model too much this session because we're running that. We're trying to keep our podcast now to a good tight 2 hours. I have to get up at silly o'clock these days for a real job rather than what I used to do, which was sitting at home designing shoes.
Real job, what was that?
I've got to actually get off my ass and go in and do real work to make. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And so we're going to do a big discussion on the flight model. We need to fly more. We haven't flown enough. I haven't done any real competitive flying with the new master mode. There's a couple videos. Asnog's linked me a good one. I think there's AV1's done a video recently. I have to kind of usually when I watch his videos, I need someone with translation, on the side to translate all the terminology because I don't know half the terminology. Usually simplifying it for madness kind of on the side with simple, easy words, pop-up pictures appear just to explain what's going on. So I really need to kind of watch that, fly a little bit more, jump into it. I think master modes at the moment is pretty good. I like the slowing down of the ships. I just want more movement, I'll say right now. I dislike the shield drop-offs. I've always felt, and I've talked about this before when I'm streaming, for me, when it comes to the flight, you shouldn't drop your shields, you should drop your speed. So when or if you have to drop shields, you drop a little bit of the power of the shields, but losing your shields, this doesn't make sense to me. I've always felt like you should just lose your speed. Because if it's meant to be so that people can catch you, then lose the speed. When people want to jump anywhere, they have to slow down to figure out where they're going. That for me would be, I think, the much more of a logical choice for what they do.
But they're not doing it so people, it's difficult because they're not doing it so people can catch you. It's like
they said
if you're trying to run, then there's a risk of trying to run because you're going to lose your shields. But it like you said, at the moment it's a little bit too tied into just general navigation. Like you're trying to see your waypoints when they don't show up unless you turn the master mode on, the travel mode on, then you lose your shields. So it's like even when you're just basic flying, you're losing your shields. Not out of combat. That's the little bit of a sticking point at the moment. It's like, okay, it's just an iteration. I guess this is what playing it in feedback is. But I haven't. I mean, when I can get my joysticks to actually recognise when I start the freaking game, that would help. But I've only done a little bit of it so far.
Yeah.
To test the master modes, but
the flying. Yeah, for me, I like the reduced speeds. I like some of the talk of increasing some of the smaller thrusters to kind of increase maneuvering and stuff like that. So at the moment it's getting better, but for some people they really dislike it for certain reasons. They're very worried about it. So I need to kind of dive into that more, and then we'll maybe have another nice little truncated section where we'll maybe watch a couple of videos and I'll try and cut some bits out and try and simplify some of the terminologies and just do the simple cookie version of it.
It's definitely going to be,
if I can,
another one of these though that I just don't think you're going to please everybody.
No.
And then it's like, what market are they heading for? Who are they trying to please? And that'll be the thing.
Yeah, again, it's that. For me, it's like they're bringing in obviously the single player flight model into the persistent universe, and fundamentally those two type of games they're at the core. They want to be different, and I feel like really You bring it in, you leave it in the part one with the flight model as it is, the balance now, where you're happy with it for the single player game. You bring it into the PU, we iterate it, we improve it, and then that next version, Mark 3, Mark 4, or whatever the flight model is, that goes into Squadron 42, maybe part 2. You know what I mean? Like it goes into the second one. And then, you know, and by the time we get to the Mark 3, the chapter 3 of the Squadron 42, you're going to have a whole new different flight model. I mean, people here play God of War and Grand Theft Auto. Some of the core elements stay the same through all of it, but there's always iteration between those chapters, between those games, between God of War 1, God of War 2, God of War 3. Many of it stays the same, but there's add-ons and improvements. The PU is just constantly improving, constantly getting better. I do think that, you know, because if they're trying to wait for that perfect flight model that's going to be in the PU and the single player, I think balance, I think Rich's point, I think that's I don't think you can do it personally. You can get close, but I don't think it's doable.
There's also a difference between a complete overhaul on the flight thing and then potentially tweaking it. But like, as Brim's asking, I think I've always said that when we've talked in the past on the podcast, is that I don't think Squadron 42 is anywhere near being done because we don't have a flight mechanic that's been settled on. We keep changing it. I thought if they can't even get a flight mechanic right, then they're not going to be able to do, say, their cinematic fights and everything else, because how can you when you don't know how your ships are going to handle? So I think now that they're sort of saying Squadron's feature complete and they're polishing it and stuff, I think that, I mean, I'd like to think that this master mode, whether you like it or hate it, is probably the one they're going to go with. I'd be extremely surprised if they do yet another overhaul, because I think they need to settle on one so that they can polish Squadron 42. Because if you imagine you've planned a whole fight in Squadron 42 where you've got mini fighters coming in or whatever, and you're chasing it down, and then they completely change the flight mechanic, that cinematic battle no longer happens because either your ship's far too fast and you're now outrunning these smaller ships, or you know, whatever. They need to have a fixed model that they're going to go on so that they can then, because it's going to be curated battles and stuff in that. It's not going to be like in the PU where it's going to be more flexible because it's players. This is stage shit that you're playing. You're playing a cinematic game. So yeah, I personally feel that this is probably the mode that we're looking at that's going to stay. Don't hold me to it though. I'm not confident enough in Star Citizen and what the shit they do to 100% put my money on that. But that's where I think we're at.
I genuinely think you're right in the sense that they'll have to come to a place where you play the experience of the single player game and go, have I had that cinematic experience? Is it fun? Is the person who is able, you know, the skill level, you know, you don't need to be AV1 to play the single player game and to complete it. You know what I mean? Like for me, you know, they have to find that Goldilocks, you know, area for Squadron 42 where it's attainable for a big demographic of people to play. And, you know, the persistent universe, which is constantly going live. And there's obviously a high level of very talented players who operate on a high band of just dedication or whatever, you know, skills, whatever, I don't know, whatever you want to say. You need to kind of like design elements for them, but they can't dictate. Unfortunately, they can't dictate for the vast majority of people, as much as I would love that to be the case at times, because, you know, the ego trips of PvP pilots, we love to always think that we know best. But the reality is we don't really. We like to think we do, yeah, but we don't really. It's a bit sometimes very narrow-minded.
I think that's the closest you could get is if they decided that there's just no way they could keep the two games the same. You know, like, okay, this works for Squadron, it's not going to work for the PU. Then I think you could potentially get a whole overhaul for the PU to try and make that work. That would be the only, I would say, the next break that you would get if they couldn't get everybody to agree on master modes or just felt like it wasn't working on PU. I think, like I said, they have to stick to something with Squadron, and I think this master mode is going to probably be it. So yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So balancing Squadron 42, balancing the PU, balancing the web page, balancing just everything. You think of like Arena Commander, all the balancing that has to go on inside of that. You've got racing now. We haven't even tried racing yet, have we? And that's going to be hilarious. I'm looking forward to when we actually try racing and talk about it.
I tried to do racing.
Well, I mean, the last time I flew, what was it? I flew the bike for about 5 or 6 minutes, the Gravlev bike, the new one. I forget what it is, the Pulse? Is the Pulse, yeah? I flew the Pulse. Someone had left it on a thing. I now know why they left it.
Oh, yeah, you stole it and it went...
Because it just was flying all over the place in the air. And then it was just all over. And then I took it for a spin. Oh, my God, it was so fast. It was amazing. Until I found a rock. Just like I did with the Nox, because I'm a Nox owner. Same scenario, just boom in seconds. And I was just sat there and I was just going, yeah.
I've never done that with any of my ground vehicles.
Just like, oh man. So, but I'm looking forward to trying the racing in the Arena Commander because obviously, you die. It's not a big deal. You can respawn.
I think the last time I did that racing was with Mac when we was doing the timed courses with different people as guests, and like we had I think I did mine that was it. We was getting everybody to fly a Reliant because they were so bad. So basically, it was kind of like Top Gear. This is your ship. You've got to fly the Reliant and you've got to do the race course.
That's not explains the Reliant. You were the one that was pushing the Reliant on everyone, or was that their suggestion?
I was.
You were the one like, everyone, you've got to fly this ship because I've got this ship.
Yeah, it wasn't what was the best lap you could do. It was the best lap you could do in a Reliant, and it was fucking dreadful.
I mean, yeah, it's I like the Pulse. I think it's a really great little vehicle. But the Gravlev, they still need to, I think Detox has got a fantastic video out there about all the issues with some of the land vehicles. It's a great video. Maybe we can talk about that on another podcast coming up when we're in this dry period, as Star Citizen likes to go through their no information for reasons that I guess new patches are coming out. And Jared needs to go on another boat or a yacht or a holiday or whatever he does. Yeah. He needs to go on. All of that stuff. What I will say is, I always like to I want to try and be positive. We talked Miz and I talked very much about if we were going to come back and do the podcast, we really wanted it to be not a salt fest, if that makes sense. Like where we didn't want it to be really like focusing on super, super negative stuff. So I kind of really wanted to kind of like talk about more positive stuff and really break down some of the positive things that we've seen. We've already spoke about how fantastic the stability of the latest patch has been. I think in terms of designs of the spaceships recently, they've been very, very good. Maybe the Firebird is an exception in terms of what it does being good, but it's still pretty damn, very, very pretty ship.
It's pretty. Maybe it's just sold to look pretty. That's what it does.
Cargo. There's a lot of talk about, obviously we're getting the hangars and the stuff with the cargo. We had a blast, Miz and I, during
you haven't got the picture of our...
Yep. Yes I do.
Oh god, no.
We had a great time. I mean, I'm just this kind of like just a little fun thing. So over Christmas we played a lot of the salvage. We wanted to kind of get to grips with salvaging and all the new gameplay and everything else there, and cargo running in the Reclaimer. And this is just like kind of like talking about, just very, very, very quickly for the next couple, just talking about cargo. We might do this on another thing, but yeah, we're probably going to do this on another week. We'll talk about the cargo stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Miz is an absolute freaking pro. If you need anybody when it comes to stacking boxes in a Reclaimer, the dude, Keel and Miz are legends. I mean, they can find space anywhere inside.
I have to say, over the period we played over Christmas, like we played quite a lot, like every night. And I don't think I saw the outside of the cargo bay.
He was there every time.
That was my job. It was my only job.
It was just, I know it's a bit like Star Citizen slides, but like it was amazing, like finding all the places that you could like stack these boxes and make them so that, you found space. CIG, balance, talking about balance, they got there's a lot of old ships and even some of the new ships. You kind of got to go in and look at some of these cargo grids and make way better use of some of the internal space. People talk about the 600i, luxury and space and all that, waste, more space wasted. These industrial ships, some of these are clearly old designs for when they didn't really have fully fleshed out and in-game cargo grids and stacking boxes and different size boxes and all that stuff. We talk about like the Mark IIs and things like that of ships, retiring ships.
100%.
This desperately needs balancing.
If they haven't learnt by now that people like to play what fits inside ships, it's the same with cargo. It's like, I've got a big space here, I need to fill it. And like, okay, I exploited a lot with the railings and stuff, but even just the basic stacking, you can't have all that cargo space, but it not count as cargo space. It's just going to feel so wrong that you just basically like, I'm wasting, it's profit. It's like going with a moving house and buying a great big lorry and then just filling a car-sized boot worth in the back of it. But paying for the lorry to drive you there, it's not good enough. There needs to be way more stackable. You need to be able to stack them higher. You need, the cargo grid needs a lot of work on there.
It's
in that one. I mean, verticality underneath as well.
It's
and that was a pain in the ass.
If you see vertical space above you and you want to stack boxes, you're going to want to go up. You see the space. You go, well, I can put stuff in this. I'm going to want to put stuff in this, and so I feel like it's like, when they're making the ships, they really do need to, kind of really think about that. You know what I mean? Like really, really think how these ships need to have the space. I know that they have, like if you make for walkways and stuff, like I'm a big fan of just like let the players make the walkways themselves rather than forcing empty walkways, because players will just stuff shit there anyway. So may as well make it all part of a grid, and then if the players lock themselves in their own cockpit, then so be it. That's their choice. They've stuck themselves in their cockpit.
I did lock myself in the cargo bay at one point. I think I did put it that much in that I couldn't actually get out of the damn thing.
In here in my box cage of emotion.
I think I had to wait for you lot to start removing some before I could actually make my way through. It was bad.
Yeah, but and it was a really we had a great time. We made loads of money, which was fucking awesome. I definitely will talk about like in terms of money experiences as well. I'll leave that for a topic. Like how we make money in the game again, because it's changed. Obviously, CRG's really, other than the dupers, I guess people who are now duping and making money doing that, which we frown upon. I found it incredibly difficult to make any money so far, but that's because the grind to get to obviously the missions to make money. And then it comes down to, this is a bigger conversation about gameplay and stuff, which we'll save for another. We'll save it for another. But I just wanted to think, we had an absolute blast. We never really talked about it too much, but we really did enjoy over the Christmas period, which is one of the big reasons why I think we've come back and decided that we were going to reignite the podcast. Plus, CRG has been, really talking about some really positive new things for us to talk about. We can actually have new conversations about some of the new stuff coming in with gameplay.
We're talking about old UI still.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. Did you?
I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's nice to have at least a discussion with something that's actually changed. I mean, there was a huge period where we just felt like we were doing this and nothing was changing. We were talking about the same stuff, and it was difficult to try and talk about it. I mean, we got people on here that haven't stopped streaming it, so good for them. But in terms of like a talk thing, it felt like you're just almost repeating, saying, why haven't they fixed this yet? Why haven't they fixed this yet? Why is this still so bad?
Yeah.
So at least we've seen definitely a nice big chunk of things to change. Things are definitely looking more positive for us. I mean, UI has been such a huge thing that's needed an overhaul. So
yeah, it's just like, I'm not going to beat them up too hard in terms of like, you can always go in and really start to critique the mistake. Like it's the icons on the star map and the choices that they've kind of not enough variety between icons so you can memorize and know where you're going is very annoying. The fact that you still can't pin a location that you want to go to, like I do like a target or ship, I can't pin something there, so it's immediate. It's always in a reticle point, no matter what master mode I'm in. That really should be a thing. I should be able to target something and keep it locked on, so I always have it as a marker. I don't have to. It gives you an automatic, like as if it was like a rooted or a mission marker. You know what I mean? So you always have that, so you don't have to worry. That for me, those are the two main things in terms of the star map. When I look at the star map and I go, please add. If you would have got like 100%, like there would be nothing. It would be fucking-tastic. I would be so delighted if those two things were better.
Yeah,
if that makes
still
sense.
So much better. The funny thing is, though, it's like anything, which always makes me laugh, is when you get used to the new thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long to forget how bad it was when it was.
Oh
bad.
my god, and
it's already like that. It's like because that you're nitpicking at, say, like, and don't get me wrong, I 100% agree, like the icons. But like when we played, even at Christmas, and you can't zoom in on anything because as soon as you touch anything, the map disappears, and then it's like, where are you gone?
100%.
Where are you gone? It's like, oh my. Yeah. So yeah, that sort of change. I don't know if that's showing you how good the change is. The fact that you start forgetting almost instantly how bad it was, or whether it's just a nature thing that you tend to do that anyway. I don't know.
I think it's because we don't play as much as some of those people who are complaining about it. I think, in all truth, I think if you play something a lot and you come up against that barrier or that annoyance more, you know what I mean? Like if it just becomes more and more irritating in your face, just constantly like. You know,
I know the nav thing always was extremely irritating.
You know, yeah.
It doesn't take long to get used to something that's good. And I think that's just it. It's just when it's working, because it's no longer something to complain about, you almost forget that it's like, so when something does slightly, oh bloody hell, but like even just the search function, just to be able to just search and click go there, it's like it takes away any of the other shit because you don't need to keep navigating around so much. It's like I just put where I want to go.
Yeah, so good.
It's just,
it's like you can get past that and you can now focus on other little improvements, and you can actually focus on talking about those little, tuning up those few extra things to make it just a flawless experience. Really, that's crazy to think, but
I mean, that's good.
Flawless experience.
That's a good sign anyway, isn't it? Like when you're nitpicking at little things, that's what you want to hear. You don't want to hear that this just doesn't work.
No.
When someone's just, I mean, if all you've got to moan about is icons, that's telling you you've done something right. I suppose that's telling you that it's working well.
Yeah, definitely. Like Miz says, like, by the way, if people have any suggestions or things that you kind of want to have us, we talked about this, want us to maybe talk about for previous podcasts or anything you're interested in, feel free to hit us up. Either you can join me on my Discord or DM us or whisper us or whatever it is. I will get this up on YouTube and the other one on YouTube as well. I've just been slacking because it's been a long time since I've done anything when it comes to YouTube. And I'm just getting back, really am just getting back into the flow of doing a podcast again. It is funny how you forget a lot of things. So it's like just trying to remember. So we'll get the last show from 2 weeks ago. We'll put that up on YouTube. Yeah, I am getting on YouTube. And then I'll get this one up and try and get this one up. But I will make sure that the podcasts are always on Twitch immediately after. So I publish them on the Twitch, so you can always watch the VOD through the Twitch as well straight away. So if you did watch this, catch it a bit later, and you're interested in what we were talking about before, you just want something just to, listen in the background whilst you're doing whatever you are doing tomorrow, feel free. The VOD will go live in usually about 10 minutes after I end the podcast. But yeah, it's positivity for sure. Matt's great. And balancing is going to take a long, long, long time. I need to apply for a job on the balancing team. I think that's it. That's what I need to do. Figure out
job for life.
A job for life. It's been an absolute pleasure, boys. Thank you so much. Unless there's anything else, Miz, I hope I didn't miss anything. Was there any other things you want to talk about?
Huge shout out and thanks to Detox for the raid and for everybody sticking around.
Appreciate
please hit the follow if you haven't done. And hopefully we'll try to be as regular as we can be. We still have lives and we've got older, a lot more grey hairs between us. But yeah, I mean, to make the podcast a little bit more interesting, if you've got something that you want to hear us discuss, you think it's a good topic, then get in contact with us, because it gives you more of a reason to listen as well then, because we can discuss things that you're actually interested in rather than sometimes just looking through some of the crap that Star Citizen chuck out and it's not that interesting. We don't want to bore you for 2 hours. We'd rather it be something that you feel that you can be engaged with.
Yeah.
So anything you want to discuss, let us know. But no, I think otherwise, thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. If anyone's got, I'm trying to look for somebody, maybe someone we can throw a little, throw some numbers at. What do you reckon? Anyone got any recommendations?
Buster the Destroyer's on my list. Is about the only one.
I think that's the thing is we're getting old because we haven't got that many people. But yeah, we could throw it to Buster, or if anyone else has got anyone. I'm always looking for somebody new. If there's anyone new, but I don't know. I think it's knowing people.
You say that and then you don't host someone that you don't know. So.
Yeah, and you put it on there and there's got follow only or whatever, and you're like, I have no idea. So anyway, let me but yeah, and then going forward as well, we may have some guests. We may do other bits and bobs. So we'll see how it goes. But it's all just kind of like slowly getting back into the rhythm of doing the show again. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm enjoying it. It's fun. It's nice to reactivate the brain cells. I'm going to, shall we just throw to Buster? Yeah, let's just throw it to Buster.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's do it.
Go for it.
It's been a while.
Catch you later, all.
Catch you all later. How do I get her name? It's Buster.
Hang on. Wait for this is the rusty part coming out now.
Oh, God, yeah.
We will be with you in but a moment.
Did that work? Yes, it did. Wait, look at that. He still knows how to do something. Woo. Awesome,
guys. How
guys.
long ago was this show? I think it was 4 years.
4 years.
Well, not if you don't include the one last week.
Yeah.
The other week.
2 weeks ago.
4 years.
4 years. Yeah, between that one. Catch you guys later. Have a good one.